Guys, welcome back to another Axel 72 video, and in today's video it's a pleasure to be joined by Alex Arthur. And Alex, first of all, how are we?
I'm good, thanks. Yeah, calmed down a little bit after the adrenaline's worn off in the weekend. So uh, I've had a lot of good food and a couple of good nights sleep now. So I'm good. Yeah,
Of course, and I suppose, it's understandable you had a lot of adrenaline after your pro debut, and I suppose as a performance, what did you make of it? What was it like being under the lights?
I enjoyed it. Enjoyed every minute of it. I thought it was good. From start to finish, the whole build up, the whole week. Um, the weigh-in was awesome. That's when I kind of started to get myself all excited and up for it after the weigh-in. Got home, refueled, and the time kind of just flew by from that moment on.
And I suppose as a performance, you feel like it kind of all went to plan.
Yeah, would have liked to have got him out of there. I think it would have been a bit of a statement win if I'd managed to stop Robbie Chapman because he's not been stopped in a long time. But I can take a lot back to the gym after going the 4 rounds with him and gaining that experience.
Of course. And, I suppose how good was it to share that winning moment with your dad, who, of course, is your coach and somebody who I'm sure has inspired you a lot in your career?
Yeah, it was really good. It was really good. It was a shame he couldn't be in the corner
Hmm.
in between the rounds, but it is what it is. It was really good.
Of course. And did you kind of go and watch him much as a child? And I suppose how much did he inspire you fighting, because he achieved some great things fighting as well.
I was very young for the uttermost part of my dad's career. But the first fight that I actually did ever go to was when he won the world title in Cardiff against
Mhm.
Gogoladze. That was the first time I think my mum allowed me to go and watch a fight. But other than that, very fond memories and stuff of my dad's career.
Was he somebody who was always kind of pushing you to want to fight, or was he trying to keep you away from fighting?
No, I think he tried to keep me away from fighting. I don't think it was until I was around 17 he started to notice that I was actually pretty good, and then he was like, "Yeah, you should box instead of playing this football."
And I suppose, obviously you went on to achieve a lot in the amateurs. And what would you say was your biggest achievement from that time?
Probably winning the elite title last year
Mhm.
in March last year. That was a really good thing to tick off the list.
Most definitely. And I suppose, when did you hear about the interest from Queensberry?
Uh, we approached them. I mean, there wasn't really any other option, to be honest. When I got back, I went to Spain and done a 4 week training camp with Willie Hutchison before he fought Joshua Buatsi. And the 2 seconds, just shut this. And it wasn't until Willie said to me, he was like, "Why haven't you turned pro yet?" and stuff. And he had sparring partners over there, and I was in the ring sparring with them every day and holding my own and stuff. And then he was like, "You should really consider it. You should really think about turning pro." And I came back from Spain, and the thought of going back to the amateur setup and stuff was sounding more like a chore, like something that I had to do, not that I wanted to do it anymore. And then said to my dad, "I think it's time for me to turn pro. I'd like to turn professional." And he said, "Okay, let's get in touch with Frank."
And do you feel like now you've gone into the professional game, your excitement is there more so than, ever before with boxing?
Yeah, absolutely, without a doubt.
Of course.
Without a doubt.
It's great to hear, really. And obviously, you were on a Queensbury show just the other day, and it was a big event with Josh Taylor. And I suppose you're probably a bit biased to say this, but do you believe that Queensbury is the best boxing promotion in the world?
Yeah, I would say so. Results speak for themselves, and I feel like they've really been thriving in the past few years.
Definitely. And compared to, on that night, there was a lot of really good Scottish talent on show, and, you were amongst some really other, good names as well. And what would you say makes yourself different to the rest of this kind of upcoming Scottish talent?
That's a good question. Um, What makes me different? Uh, I don't know.
Threw you off
You
there,
caught me. You caught me. You've caught me out with that one. That's a good question. I'm gonna have to skip that. I can't think.
No, no worries, mate. I'll give you a chance to get back to that one another time, yeah.
Yeah, do that.
And obviously you are a big boxing fan. You're a big Scottish boxing fan, and when you came into the arena, it seemed like you were kind of in awe of it to an extent. And you look back on some memories of when you were there as a fan. And I suppose was it a bit of a pinch yourself moment?
Yeah, it was. When I came to look at the ring and come into the venue for the first time, uh, I got like a flashback to when the last time I actually in the Hydro was, and it was funnily enough when I went to watch the final of the Commonwealth Games. My dad was commentating,
Mhm.
and I just remember being up there in the stands and watching Josh Taylor win the gold medal. It was just crazy to think that I was there now fighting on his undercard at 23 years old. I think 2014 I would have been 13, so 10 years ago.
Well, no, that is crazy. And I suppose was there many kind of other than Josh Taylor, any other names in which you were really looking up to at that time in the boxing scene,
At that time in the boxing scene,
or just in general?
like my favourite fighters.
Hmm.
To be totally honest with you, I didn't really become a boxing fan until I was like 17.
Okay, yeah.
Uh, it was just an occasion. I was there with my whole family. Uh, but to be honest with you, I wasn't really into boxing even when I was there watching the Commonwealth Games or anything. It wasn't until I turned 17, and then when I kind of realized I was like, this is going to be something that I'm going to go into now. My favorite fighter's always been Joe Calzaghe. No
Hmm.
one's ever came close to Joe Calzaghe, in my opinion.
Hmm.
Um, but along the lines of Joe, close seconds and thirds, Pernell Whitaker,
Hmm.
I like Rigondo, Winky Wright,
Hmm.
a whole lot of southpaws, and Josh Taylor's definitely up there as well.
Was it, obviously you got the big debut win, but was it a bit sad at the same time to see that Josh Taylor did lose?
Yeah, it was bittersweet, wasn't it? I think everybody in that whole arena was there to see Josh come back to winning ways. So uh, for it to be such a close fight as well, it was a shame to see him not get his hand raised at the end of it.
And I suppose what would you say if you were in that position, would you next do in your career if you were Josh Taylor?
I think it's hard to say. I think he's not been very active, has
Hmm.
he? I think he maybe ring rust was had something to do with it, or I mean, I don't know. The only person that will know the answer to that question is Josh Taylor, really. Maybe take some time away with his wife and spend some time with his family and reevaluate what he wants to do, and then come back to making that decision with a clear head.
No, definitely. And what I suppose for future ambitions for yourself, obviously you just had your pro debut. I'm sure you're itching to get back out there, but what would you say are these long-term ambitions of yours?
I would definitely like to headline a show in Edinburgh,
Hmm.
and I reckon I could do that within the next 3 years. I reckon by the time I'm ready to fight for a British title, I could headline the show in Edinburgh without a doubt. And then if we're going really long term, I'd like to do what no one has ever done and maybe fight in the castle for a world title.
Oh, okay. So, really sticking to that, Scottish heritage and going down that
Hmm.
route. And I suppose, do you are you really proud of where you come from?
Yeah, of course, and it's the best place in the world.
And what do you think would be different about fighting in the castle? This outdoor kind of historical venue. Do you think it would be able to be done?
I'd say so. I would say so. I think it would be difficult, but I mean, there's no harm in trying. dream big and all that.
No, of course, of course. And one final question from me. I appreciate your time, and you had, I'm sure, a good collection of fans out there who came to support you for your pro debut, and
Yeah.
that alongside with the sponsors as well backing you. I know how important that is, especially starting up your career. What would you like to say to them?
hmm Just a big massive thanks. There's a lot of people that were there at my debut that have started to that are going to be supporting me from that night onwards. But there was also a lot of people that were there that have been supporting me since I had my first fight in the novice championships.
Mhm.
Uh, so I just want to say a massive thanks to them all and my sponsors. They know who they are.
Amazing, Alex. Well, like I say, really appreciate your time, mate, and best of luck with your career progressing. Hopefully, you'll be able to catch
Thank
up
you.
at some point after maybe a couple more fights.
Yeah, lovely. I appreciate
Nice.
it.
Sounds good, man. Thank you very much again, mate.
Thank you.